On this episode of China Uncensored, we are so close to war. Or not close at all. Between aggressive threats and calls for peace, it seems Chinese media can't make up their mind. Hi, welcome to China Uncensored. I'm your host, Chris Chappell. You know, I admit, I've been a bit worried about a war starting over tensions in the South China Sea. Mainly based on statements from Chinese state-run media like, a US-China war is inevitable in the South China Sea. Well, it's easy to misinterpret that. Sure, it seems like the Chinese language Global Times is in some way suggesting war between the US and China is inevitable in the South China Sea, but that was a year ago. Now, according to this much more recent editorial in the English language Global Times, that simply isn't the case. China is a peace-loving country and deals with foreign relations with discretion, and hopes disputes can be resolved by talks. Whew. You could build an entire island on my South China Sea relief. I'm especially glad to hear about that being willing to resolve things by talks bit, because next week, a UN-backed tribunal in The Hague will be doing just that. It will rule on a territorial dispute between China and the Philippines over disputed territorial waters. It's great that China is so open to resolving things by talks.
China
does not accept any dispute resolution from a third party, and does not accept any dispute resolution forced on China.
Funny that, I guess the Chinese regime isn't really open to talks. But China still only wants peace in the South China Sea, right? I guess I'm just getting a little confused since that English Global Times article says China is a peace-loving country, but then later, China should speed up building its military capabilities and let the US pay a cost it cannot stand if it intervenes in the South China Sea. That sounds like a threat to me. Now you might be thinking, yeah, them and what army? This one.
China has started military exercises today, which will run until July the 11th. Vessels will be prohibited from the area.
Yep, China's People's Liberation Army has just cordoned off a huge chunk of the South China Sea.
The military drills are the Chinese Navy's routine drills, according to its annual plan.
Right, those drills are routine. Even though the Global Times specifically wrote just a few days ago that the drills are being held as a result of the international arbitration case. Next Tuesday, The Hague will issue its rulings, and it's widely expected to rule in favor of the Philippines. So not only are this week's drills happening in disputed territorial waters, which Vietnam claims, they're also happening right next to some of the busiest shipping lanes in the South China Sea. This is, of course, just the latest in the very long saga of the South China Sea territorial disputes. China militarizes the region by, say, building artificial islands.
China, in addition to building those islands, is now militarizing them, basing military aircraft, military warships, and missile systems on those manufactured reefs.
The United States then says, no, those are international waters and international airspace, then sends its military in to prove it. Then Chinese state-run media criticizes the US for militarizing the region.
China has criticized the militarization of the region by the US, denouncing the show of strength as miscalculated.
Internet flame wars ensue, then I make an episode about it, resulting in more internet flame wars. It's like a merry-go-round. It's on fire. And it's going way too fast to get off anymore. Because all it takes is one little accident for this whole thing to spiral out of everyone's control. Think that'll never happen? July 1st, the 95th anniversary of the founding of the Chinese Communist Party. A Taiwanese patrol ship is doing training drills and accidentally fires a supersonic missile in the direction of mainland China. It hits another ship, killing the captain. Now, it just so happens this ship was Taiwanese. But imagine what would be happening right now if that freak accident had hit a mainland Chinese boat and killed a mainland Chinese captain. We might be working towards a final answer to that one China policy question a lot sooner than anyone anticipated. So, as we approach the ruling by The Hague, With tensions so high, what do you think will happen next? And what do you think should be done? Leave your comments below. Thanks for watching this episode of China Uncensored. Once again, I'm your host, Chris Chappell. See you next time. China has been photoshopping since before it was cool. Before there was even Photoshop, actually. For example, why let a perfectly good historical photo of Mao be ruined just because this one guy later got purged from the party? Delete? Yes, China is killing millions of innocent meditators for their organs, which is what a lot of people might call genocide. This comes after this incredibly detailed 680-page report revealed that as many as 1.5 million innocent people in China have been murdered for their organs.